I knew it was going to be weird when my parents scheduled a sit-down family meeting. My mother said, "Your father and I have decided we're moving to Reno, Nevada." I immediately got upset. "What do you mean you're moving to Reno? Why would you do that? What's out there for you?" My mother said, "We don't want to retire on Long Island. We want to be up in the mountains and live a quiet life and be closer to nature, be closer to our family friend Betty, who had just moved out there." My sister immediately started crying, and she was hysterical. "Why are you doing this to us? Why would you do this? Where do we go when we come home from college? What do we do now?" We just kept shouting at our parents, "Why are you doing this to us?" And I realized that every time we were saying that, it was because we didn't know what Reno was going to be like. It was just so different. And the subtext behind all of that was, it's so not Jewish. And we were so Jewish. Let me give you a little background about that. When I was in 4th grade, I was 9 years old, I met my first non-Jewish person. Her name was Alexandra. "Alexandra, what are you doing for Rosh Hashanah?" "Oh, I don't celebrate Rosh Hashanah." "What do you mean you don't celebrate Rosh Hashanah?" "Oh, I'm not Jewish." I didn't understand what she meant. "What do you mean you're not Jewish?" She said, "I'm Christian, so I don't celebrate Jewish holidays." And I still didn't understand what that meant. What? I don't understand. My public elementary school growing up was 95% Jewish. So everyone I knew was Jewish. The whole town was Jewish, everyone was Jewish, everyone knew Jewish culture, and I just assumed that everyone was the same until I met Alexandra. So a few months after my parents moved out there, it was time for me to make my first trek to Reno, and my sister and I decided we'd go out together. We were going to drive out there for my college and drive together the whole way across the country. We just kept having the same conversation. What do you think it's going to be like out there? What does home look like for us now? What are we going to do out there? We don't know anyone out there except for our parents. We were going to spend an entire month there, and we had no idea what it was going to be like. We just kept talking about things we were going to miss on Long Island. We were going to miss our friends. My sister was going to miss Joanne's barbecue chicken pizza. I was really going to miss Ben's Deli and getting a really good turkey sandwich and a knish and rugula and going to Lazar's Chocolate to get a menorah made out of chocolate during Hanukkah. And it was just too much. I just didn't know what it was going to be like. What were we going to talk to people about? What if we offended people because we were from Long Island and they're all pro-gun and pro-life and fundamentalist Christians? What if we offended them by just being who we were? And what if I started using Yiddish phrases and talking about schwitzing, and then I'm schwitzing because I'm in the desert and I'm schwitzing, and what would they do if they didn't understand what I was saying? So this conversation happened for 4 days. The drive took 4 days. And we just didn't know what it was going to be like. So we finally get to Reno. We're there for a month. And when we got there, we realized that all of our fears were true. We couldn't get a good sandwich, a deli sandwich to save our lives. And we just, for example, my father is a doctor, and someone in his office, when she goes running every day, carries a gun. So we just didn't understand what that life was going to be like. And for the entire month, we just talked to our parents. We didn't know anyone, they barely knew anyone, and they didn't talk to anyone else. So we spent a month, just the 4 of us. And by the end of the month, I was really excited to go back to college, but I was just so frustrated. I didn't understand why we were there. I didn't understand why my parents moved there and changed our whole life. I didn't understand why they chose to live somewhere where we didn't really understand life there. A few months after that, I was in college and on the phone with my parents on our typical Sunday morning catch-up call. I asked my parents, "What'd you do this weekend?" My mom said, "Oh, we were out in the garden, we were in the house just fixing things, and Friday night we went to shul." My ears perked up because I hadn't heard that word from them in 8 months that they'd lived there, but I probably also hadn't heard that word since my sister's bat mitzvah. It was just not something we did. We were very Jewish, not observant Jewish. And so I didn't understand, what do you mean you went to shul? That's odd. And I said, yeah, we just realized that we've been here 8 months and we don't know anyone, and we just needed some familiarity. And we really enjoyed it, and now we belong to a synagogue. And over the next couple of months, they just kept talking about doing things with the synagogue and with this group of friends that they coined the Jew crew. And they just seemed like they were actually enjoying life out there. So when I graduated college, it was time again for me to make the 4-day trek out to Reno. And I was still frustrated. I still didn't understand. They seemed like they were a little bit happier, but why was I going there? Everyone I knew had just graduated from college, and they were all on Long Island hanging out together and going to the landmark diner late at night and just being together. And I had to drive the opposite direction and go to some place I only knew my parents. I didn't understand why we were there. In the car, my mom calls me and says, Nate, as soon as you get here, you have a packed social calendar. What am I doing? She said, as soon as you get here, the Jew crew will be here. They want to meet you. They all want to kvel over you. They all want to see your face. I finally arrived, and my mother was not lying. As soon as I walked in the door, there was Marty and Steve and Tom and Jane, the Jew crew, and they all were so excited to meet me. And that's all they did. They all kveled over me. That's all they wanted to do. And it just felt familiar. It felt like Long Island. And I realized that for the first time since my parents moved away from Long Island, I had finally felt like I was home again.